we are at the ARA show in Orlando, and I'm joined by Matt Harris, the CEO of Texada. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Happy to be here.
Very good. So before we get into Texada, so we are at the ARA show today, and we've been shooting a whole range of podcasts. So is this your first ARA show? Have you been before?
For me personally, it's my first. The company has been exhibiting at many ARA shows over many years now, and is a proud member of the ARA for many years as well.
Okay, so walking in, obviously seeing all the machines and vendors and crowds, like what was your first impressions?
First of all, if you like construction equipment, it's a cool place to be. You see some amazing new machines and a lot of innovation and things that rental companies can actually rent, from electrified machines to power generation. It's all pretty cool. And then there's a really neat compilation of software companies like us who are doing software-based innovation on a productivity basis for the industry. Yeah. So it's a real exciting compilation and congregation of companies just serving the industry. I really couldn't think of a better place to be to really help get to know more of our customers, our market, and also help tell our story. Very
much so. And then on the weekend they had like the guest speakers coming out and little workshops. Did anyone from Texada attend those?
Yeah, we attended several of those. That's some of the best part about meetings like this, I think, is that you really can understand and learn more about what are the topics that the industry is really focused on now and into the future. And for companies like us, that's kind of our lifeblood. I mean, as a software company, what we want to do is address the real challenges that the industry is facing, and so really understanding that not just from the perspective of our customers, but also in these learning settings is really very important for us.
Definitely, yeah. I think, and then like those are definitely great points. And the third one that I think is really amazing is the networking opportunity, because like everyone comes together and you can meet people, and then you meet someone and they'll introduce you to someone else, and it's sort of just it just grows from there really. And then the following year that you come, then you've got an additional people to hang out with, and so on and so on.
Yeah, the networking is phenomenal, and certainly meeting our customers in settings like this, also people who aren't our customers, and obviously learning about the challenges that they face. And honestly, meeting some of our competitors and the other people in the industry, there's a lot of learning that can happen here. And I found the place is, even amongst competitors, it's a collegial environment where we're eager to learn from each other and support the industry.
Yeah, very much so. So you are the CEO of Texada, and we'll get into who Texada is, but how did you first join the industry?
So I joined Texada in August of last year, August of 2022. So I'm pretty new to the industry and to the equipment space. But I didn't come from light years away. I came from maybe a hop and a skip away. Prior to this, I was president of a software company called Viewpoint Construction Software, and we served the construction industry. So many of the customers of my last company are the contractors who are renting from our customers and the people attending this industry today, this show today. And so I'm very familiar with the construction environment, the built environment, if you will, and with the creation and scaling of a world-class software company.
Yeah, and then like even those construction companies, they typically manage their own assets as well, so you really aren't too far away, I would say. And Viewpoint's very popular in Australia, by the way.
Yeah, I know, and I've been to Australia many times, to your fair city in Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane and other places. We have a great customer base there, and I really enjoyed going down there and visiting with them.
And so whereabouts are you based?
I'm currently based in Portland. Our company's headquarters is just outside of Toronto and Mississauga.
Okay, and so newly joined to Texada, so maybe just want to explain on who actually is Texada Software.
Yeah, Texada Software, we are a SaaS software provider to equipment rental and dealer companies. And our software is really a compilation of three pieces at its core. We help dealerships and rental companies manage their rentals. We help them sell equipment if they happen to be dealerships, and then we help them manage their service contracts and service engagements with their customers as well. And so we have this three-headed horse, if you will, that helps a company manage all the ways they can potentially make money across rental, equipment sales, and equipment service.
Okay, and then the reach, is it just in North America, or what's the actual reach of the company?
We're a global company. Great question. We obviously have a great North American customer base with our headquarters in the Toronto area, so Canada and the United States. We also have a wonderful customer base in Australia and New Zealand, as well as in Europe as well.
Mm. And so why do you think, or why did Texada get into rental? Do you know why? What the original reason was?
You know, like a lot of companies in this type of really focused vertical market and domain, Texada was born from the industry. That said, it was born out of an equipment rental organization, and it was born out of an equipment dealership. And these were entrepreneurs who were, running their own businesses, growing and scaling their businesses, and they found that they need better software tools to manage their businesses. So they created software that really gave them an edge and helped them sell more equipment, helped them more efficiently rent and manage their fleet and assets. And ultimately, it's a collegial industry. People ask them, hey, what are you using? What's that? And they said, well, we developed this software, and a colleague or a peer at another company may have said, hey, can we give it a shot? And they did. And then one thing led to another, and more people started, and organizations started using the software. And then at one point, it became such a thing that the software split out of the rental house and out of the dealership to create its own thing.
Interesting. Yeah. So I guess getting the insight from the actual market to almost code develop, I would say to a certain extent, is probably a very big advantage to any software provider.
Yeah, especially for what we do. I mean, we're the heart of a rental company and in many ways the heart of a dealership. We're at the core of what they do, renting equipment, engaging with their customers, managing their fleet, and in order to actually do that really well in all the different ways that you can possibly do it in equipment rental, really having an insider perspective, we think really makes a difference. And it's the same thing on the dealer side when you're selling or servicing equipment. We know how a sales manager or a sales rep thinks about how they can help encourage a customer to come into the store, to review their equipment portfolio, to help them on, with their next service contract or the next service engagement if they have a fault code and it needs to get addressed. And so really coming at it from an insider perspective is I think one of the key advantages that we can bring to this marketplace. And all we do, by the way, the only thing that we do is equipment rental and equipment dealerships. It's not like we have 45 verticals and this is one. This is our lifeblood.
And I think that's important because you really want your software provider to understand the customer and what their processes are and what their challenges are and whatnot. You don't want to call someone and then have to educate them on your own process. So I think when you really narrow down to that niche, you can become experts.
Oh, totally. And I've seen demonstrations that we've had of our software or implementations, and I've been part of the process and I've been meeting with customers. And they'll ask us a particular question around, say, even commissioning salespeople. And they'll ask if we do it this way, and we'll say, sure, we do it that way, but we also do it this way and this way for these other reasons. And you'll see a light bulb go off in our customers, like, I never thought about doing it that way. That's really interesting. And that's when things get really exciting for us, is when we can kind of bring kind of a new way of doing things into a rental house or a dealership and expose some new information to them. That's, I think, when our job really gets exciting, and that's when it's fun.
And I think, I've got a little bit of experience with Texada. One of the big advantages that I see looking on the outside is having the integrated accounting as well.
So having the integrated accounting really brings an advantage in that, it's all connected and all easily maintained, and that the information that you have from an operational perspective is exactly how it's going to be represented in your point of sale systems, in your account receivable systems, also in your payment systems and your contracting systems. So you have this continuity of information that is just 100% reliable. And I think that's a big advantage that we have for sure.
And I think it's almost the other direction as well, being able to look at a GL transaction and then drill through all the way to the end journal that it came from, and then find that invoice or that contract or that work order, whatever it is, rather than sort of looking at that, copying that, pasting it in software, opening that up, trying to see, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And if you really want to understand, what's a driver for costs, and you're doing some analysis of a profit and loss statement, and you looks like you have a heavy cost month, for example, to your point, you can actually drill into that cost basis and see what's going on. Is it a class of equipment that had a heavy service intervals in a given month, and that was requiring a lot of spare parts purchases or something like that? You can really understand kind of what's happening in the business by that forensic approach that we allow.
And so when did Texada first start?
Texada first started in the 80s. And that was really when it was combined with the rental company. And then the dealership part of our business was founded in 2006, and that was spawned out of a heavy equipment dealer.
Yeah, and so you said the word SaaS at the very beginning of this podcast, and so I'm assuming there was quite an evolution of the product over that time as well.
There's a big evolution of the product, and so really the products were really created as enterprise software with all this domain and understanding of rental houses and dealerships. And in the 80s, at that time, and to some extent even in the early 2000s, SaaS was less of a thing. But the history of the companies has been constant investment in R&D and engineering. And so one of the things that the companies have done a fantastic job with is maintaining the state of the art. And so it's not, we're in state-of-the-art platforms and state-of-the-art hosting environments. They're all browser-based applications. They have lots of mobile applications. We have sophisticated web services, APIs, application programming interfaces that let people get information into and out of our systems really easily. We have, state-of-the-art authentication controls for security, and redundant data centers. So we're built from the ground up as a modern SaaS application.
Yeah, I think logging into a server, which is so common among so many rental softwares out there, is such a challenge for maintenance, and then also for the end user to get in there. Being web-based completely changes that user experience, and then you can access it anywhere, and so on.
Yeah, and then the other thing you can take advantage of is being, cloud-based. There's a lot of innovation happening in cloud-based services. So AI artificial intelligence is the latest news out there. So being cloud-based, we can use AI-based services, artificial intelligence services, to help make our products better. So I'll give you a good example. We use artificial intelligence-based service to analyze pre- and post-inspection images, and the AI helps determine if there's damage or not. So using AI, we'll flag a piece of equipment and say, we think that this piece of equipment has damage and you might want to look at it. That makes the whole field process of collecting equipment, the disposition of the equipment post rental, that makes it much faster, more efficient, more effective. And we're able to take advantage of services like that because we're cloud-based, because we work with modern AI-based services, which are cloud-based as well.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say ChatGPT just for a second there.
Not yet. Not yet. I
was like, this is taking a wild turn.
I can imagine when maybe there's opportunities to include ChatGPT to help with
how do I
marketing.
better maintain my equipment?
Yeah,
analyzes all the data.
Yeah.
So you mentioned inspections and damage detection. So I read that you also, as part of the Texada group, Logimove is in that group now.
Yeah, and so we have a variety of different applications and functions that have come together. And one of the things that we have is through a company that we recently acquired is a magnificent mobile and browser-based application that can do field inspections and can do it really, really well. The application can do it as simply as having a checklist of pre and post rental inspection items that a truck driver or a transporter should review. It can add images to that, and so if there wants to be a record of those inspections along with the checklist, we can add a picture from a mobile phone, for example. And then, as I mentioned, we can add artificial intelligence that will actually compare the pre-rental picture with the post-rental picture and flag it. And if we see there's a big change, and so we can flag it for damages.
Yeah. And then I saw something about uptake recently as well.
Yeah, that's the dealer side of our business. And so remember at the start of our discussion here, I talked about what we're creating, and we think this is really unique and new. We're creating a platform that enables a company like a dealership or a rental house to really manage the three ways that they think about their business. So a dealership, an integrated dealer, for example, they don't just sell equipment. They make most of their profits on services, and increasingly dealers and the manufacturers that they represent, are wanting to get into rental. It's a new market that they can address. It's a continuous relationship that they can have. And so dealerships are increasingly expanding their portfolio of business beyond sales into service and rental. The thing is, there's really no integrated platform that will enable a dealership like that, or a rental house for that matter, who does sales and service, that will enable these companies to manage the trifecta of their businesses. And so they manage, so currently dealerships are managing, sales in a system, service in another system, and rental in yet a third system. And what the problem is that you have these information silos. So a dealership really has no full perspective of the relationship that they have with their customer. They know how much they sold them, or they know when the last time they came in for service, or they know what their reservation is to rent next week. But they really don't have a 360 perspective, and that's the problem that we want to solve. We want to give them that 360 perspective. So if somebody's in a dealership to rent something, that salesperson will also know that that hey, it's time to remind them to actually bring in their other piece of equipment for an oil change. Or, for example, if somebody's bringing in something because it broke for a service appointment, the rental people can be there and say, hey, do you need something to rent to give you capacity while this is while we're repairing your machine? The connection of the sides of the business, we think, will solve fantastic, will create fantastic opportunities for the industry and for dealerships in particular.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it where I've seen a dealer have separate systems for rental and service, and they've put something out on rent, and then it breaks down, and then the service department gets a call, and then they have no idea on who the customer is, what the rental contract is, all that information. So now they're scrambling into the other system to try and find that information, and then manually put that against the work order, and then go out and do it, and then trying to mix up the cost of that rental contract. If it's separate, it really makes it a bit of a puzzle to try and effectively have a P&L on your equipment.
Yeah, and we heard this really interesting statistic at the Association of Equipment Dealers show earlier this year in January in Chicago. And this analyst in a session I was attending talked about the average customer churn in the average equipment dealership. And he defined churn as customers who have not bought from that dealership in the previous 12 months. And it turns out, on average, according to this analyst, and this generated a lot of discussion, this topic. According to this analyst, an average dealer churns 5% of their customers a month. 5% a month. Now, on the one hand, that may not sound that big, but annualize that. That's 60% a year, right? Can you imagine running a business where 60% of your customers churn, or they haven't bought from you in the past year? The point being is that if all dealerships are focused on is sales, the result is a 60% churn model. If the focus then grows into service and then rental, think about all the additional opportunity that dealership has to stay engaged with that customer, to sell them something, to continue the service of that product, to rent them more of that when they have demand, capacity spikes and demand spikes that they need. And so this is really this multi-channel approach to customer engagement is something that a lot of other industries try, and sophisticated retailers try. But now, bringing something like this into an equipment dealership or a rental house, we think can really be a game changer.
And then, so within those dealerships, then let's just stay on that topic. Like a big portion of their revenue comes from parts, like selling parts to their customers. whether it be through a service or retail parts or whatever it might be. So then Texada manages that inventory of those items as well.
Yeah, we help them manage their parts and service for sure. And it's, a lot of their revenue certainly comes from parts and service, but really it's the profit margins on those are really very strong. And so it's a great way for dealerships to become, very profitable as they provide services and then spare parts. And we help them with that. We help them quote parts for their customers. Certainly from a rental house perspective, the spare parts and access to spare parts is how they keep their fleet productive and up and running. And we help them maintain their inventory of parts as well as their ordering of parts from the manufacturers or other parts distributors.
And then earlier on in the discussion, you mentioned the word mobile or mobility. So what does that mean for Texada?
So the job of a equipment rental house or a dealership, just doesn't stop at the storefront. So clearly we provide enterprise systems to manage their business or manage their sales or their service contracts. But then it extends out into their yards of their managing their inventory of what they'll have available to rent, for example. It extends then out into the logistics and then the transportation of equipment to and from job sites, for example, in the case of rental. And so the logistics of the rental and the truck drivers or the transporters who are doing that. And then it extends out even further to the actual job site where the equipment may be working. And so we provide tools for service technicians to do checkups on the equipment on the job site. We actually have telematics that will tell us the status of equipment, whether it's throwing a fault code or not, and that will help inform the service department that, hey, this machine may have a problem. We better go look at it really quickly, or we better call the customer and schedule a service appointment. So we really think about the business holistically, not just the people in the store at the dealership, but how they're getting the equipment out there, how they're managing the equipment at the contractor's job site as well.
And ultimately removing paper from that process.
And removing paper from the process. And that's why, automating it through mobile applications, and we have a series of mobile applications for the salespeople, for service managers and service technicians, for truck drivers and the inspectors of equipment, rental equipment. And so we have several different mobile applications that make their lives easier.
And so I'm hearing about all this data that you're collecting for your customers, and then there's obviously such an opportunity to try and start analyzing that data. So where does reporting come into the picture? Yeah,
so first of all, the data is our customers' data, and we like to make it really clear that it's their data. They own the data, and they can do with it as they see fit. What we're trying to do is create tools for them that makes the data more useful for them. And so to your point, having a lot of data in a inflexible reporting tool is really kind of useless, because ideally you're getting the right information to the right person at the right time, regardless of where they are or who they are. And so if a service technician needs to know the date of the last preventative maintenance on a piece of equipment, they can't just see that in a report that's run on a computer in the office. They want to see that when they're out there on a job site trying to fix something that's broken. And so they want to be able to see that from a mobile application. Or if a business owner wants to understand, what drove great revenues in the month of January, they want to be able to see that, a compilation of the information that helped them have a great month. And was it a one or two great rentals? Was it a pricing opportunity that they took advantage of, or understanding more about that?
So let's talk about your customers for a second. Let's say that I own a rental business and I'm looking for a new rental software to manage my sales, rental, and service. What's the ideal customer size? Like, are we talking like 1 or 2 employees all the way up to 1,000, or is there a sort of a cutoff? Like, where does it sort of fit in the middle?
It's generally when customers are getting into several different storefronts that a system like ours will really pay dividends, because we can help them manage the performance of each of the different stores, help them manage inventory between the different stores and the allocation of their fleet. And these are when the businesses are going to become more sophisticated, have different types of customer engagement models, different type of sales territories, for example, perhaps even different fleet types. You know, they might have a one cat class at a given store and a different cat class in another store. Oftentimes there's different tax profiles of those businesses if they're in different regions or even counties, in the case of the U.S. And so we can help them really manage the nuances of the different storefronts or the major differences in the storefronts.
Okay, so let's say that I have 4 locations. Let's just say 50 employees. I've got $25 million worth of assets, and I've got paper all through my business. My data isn't super clean because we've been running for 20 years now. Our branches locations have different processes to a certain extent. And I know for me to get from 3 locations to 10 locations, like we can't grow in that same way. We need to have a better way of managing our business. Like, what would the first step be as a business owner to sort of go on that journey?
Well, I mean, I think the first step is often ensuring that you have your core system of record established and set up the way you want it to be. And so in our case, a lot of times people will start with, you know, their basic collection of their revenues and the payment of invoices, and ensuring that that's established and they can manage that, you know, in the most straightforward of ways. Then you manage that into your contracts, into your rental contracts themselves, and so we extend then the collection of invoices into the management of contracts, and that starts then at counter operations. And so ensuring that the counter operations are automated, are efficient. We have payment, integrated payment modules, for example, that enable, that cut the transaction time down to seconds as opposed to minutes, and enable our customers to really quickly transact on high velocity items. And so we can then automate their counter operations. And then the other things that we can do is we have integrated and built-in e-commerce capabilities. So a rental house can set up their own storefront, for example, and the storefronts is connected to the inventory. And so customers, their customers are aware of the availability of their assets, and we'll tell them, you know, the pricing of the asset, and customers can rent it from there. So we establish then, you know, on the basis of understanding their revenues, the ability to contract with customers at the store, and even extending that into e-commerce. So that's a core component of it. On the other side is that, you know, you're really understanding your costs and the drivers of costs is where we get into the operations of the business. And so managing the fleet, the service work orders against the fleet, any maintenance that's requirements of the fleet, we do that through our own applications as well. Both from a management perspective that's done in the office, but also from a service technician perspective. So we can provide work orders to the service technicians and give them the information that they need to work on equipment X or Y or Z, and then do that in a way that makes sense for them. And also from the drivers who are, you know, picking up and delivering equipment, we give them, you know, the information that they need to know, you know, which equipment's going where, what's time to come back, what's off rent to pick it up, and really manage the logistics of it all. And so doing that effectively and efficiently and as productively as you possibly can then helps on the cost side as well. And what we're learning now in today's day and age is that just, you know, finding qualified people is one of the most difficult challenges in all of rental and dealerships, for that matter. And it's certainly things like truck drivers and just finding people who can deliver equipment, pick it up. That's a challenge. So making these folks as efficient, as effective, and productive as you possibly can be is really important. Also, you know, when you're hiring people nowadays, they don't want to work on clipboards anymore. People expect to have a mobile application that will help them get their job done. So it helps our customers, we think, bring in new people. And then on the technician side of things, that's even worse. So finding qualified service technicians who can maintain, repair equipment is really quite difficult. And so enabling them and giving them the tools that they can be as productive as they possibly can. You know, you don't want to have a wasted trip to a job site on something that didn't need to happen. For a service technician who, you could use 10 and you have 3. And so we really have to, make sure that we're providing the tools to help there.
So you covered quite a lot of the operations there, and as an owner operator of that 4 locations, like, it sounds intimidating to prepare all my processes and data to lead up to it. So I guess, like, does Texada help the business along the way? Is there a change management piece? Like, how? Because I feel like changing ERP systems is a big task, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. So I just want to understand, like, how does Texada make that life simpler?
Yeah, and I think the cool thing about our platform is that you don't have to start with all of it. You can start in an area and then grow into it. So if starting in just core rental management is where a company would like to start, and just really, ensuring that they have their their rental management under control, their financials under control, their rental contracts under control, that's a great place to start. And then, adding in e-commerce capabilities or payment, integrated payment capabilities. That's something that we can come back in and help add on. Adding in some of the field service tools, field inspection capabilities. Those are things when our customers are ready to, extend and automate operations, that we can help them, and we can provide that as well. The great thing about our company is that, we have truly world-class services and support. And so we have a team that is dedicated to our customers into setting up the software, configuring it to their requirements, and doing really hands-on and in-depth training with our customers to help them learn the software as best they can. And with training, it's not one and done. And so that's why we really back that up with a fantastic group of support people who come from the industry. And so they'll often know our customers' business as much as, and sometimes more than, our customers do. And so they can really, support them and how to get the most out of our software, answer any technical questions that they may have, and really, be the partners that our customers need for, a system of record like ours.
So it almost sounds like this is like a year project in terms of, like, the build up and the preparation, and then obviously the transition onto the system, and then the rolling out, and then the change management, and then the ongoing. Like, someone shouldn't have in their mind, well, I'm going to change systems in 3 months.
Surprisingly, it's actually closer to 3 months. And so our average implementation time is actually a bit less than 3 months. It's about 2 months. Occasionally, for larger customers with complex needs and, different configuration requirements, it can go longer into the 3 months. But there's a lot of things that we do because our system is inherently configurable, because we know their businesses really well. We can really work with them quickly and efficiently to get them set up and going. And then we, support them in that startup.
Yeah, and I think to hit that less than 3 months, like as you mentioned, the person that is looking at transitioning onto a new system or implementing a system really needs to, like, prep their team. Like, I feel like if you were to transition in, let's just say, 2 months, like, that's a big change for like 100-person like business.
Yeah.
So I would say to the listeners that don't take it as gospel that it's a 2-month implementation from the moment that you say, we're going to change systems, and you haven't even spoke to Texada yet.
Yeah.
There is a build-up process that needs to go through. And I remember I was talking to Kinatai, who implemented 180 locations, and their biggest advice to people out there was the more planning you do for the build-up, the better the implementation is going to go. Don't start planning once you decide to implement.
Yeah, and our average customer, I should add, has got 7 locations, and so that gives you some context. So certainly, the larger customers with the many dozens or hundreds of locations, it'd be challenging to get that done in 3 months. But For other customers with 5 locations, 6 locations, 7 locations, we're very good at, because we understand their business really well, because our system is capable of really flexing to what their requirements are too, we can get them going pretty quickly.
And I picked up on something you said, making it more efficient at the counter through payments. So is that like a payment gateway functionality?
Yeah, it's a payment application that integrates directly into our system. And so at the counter, at the point of sale, you take credit cards. The credit card processes against a purchase, either a purchase, payment for a rental contract or a payment for a consumable or something like that they're buying. And then it goes boom right into the system. It's all processed right there. It's one system, one and done. It really, as a game changer, and those are words that I've heard from our customers, it takes processing time down from maybe 4 or 5 or 6 minutes to, into the 10-second range. Now, that may not sound like that big of a difference, but imagine yourself doing, high velocity transactions in a busy period. If you're taking 5 minutes a transaction, you just need armies of counter people to support that. Otherwise, you're losing business. If you can make that more productive and make it quicker per transaction, then you can maintain your business and your growth without, staffing a huge counter organization as well. And those are hard people to come by too in this day and age.
Yeah, and I think the other benefit is that if you do use a payment gateway, so maybe just to explain to the audience, you can store a credit card as what's called a token, and that token allows you to store that, I'm assuming in Texada, against a customer. But what that means is once you set that up once, that token can be reused again when that customer comes back. And so rather than you asking for the credit card again, you can say, are you token number 6543 at the last 4 digits? And then you can process that payment straight away. It's very common when you go anywhere, if you call a bank or whatever it is this the number you're referring to? Or if you're going onto a website, like it stores your information. And I think that's the sort of flexibility that it allows, like the first transaction, but then the ongoing transactions if the customer allows you to store that information.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a function of the rental house themselves or the dealership, whether they want to maintain credit cards, and also the payment provider. So these are highly mature systems, and so we work with partners in that regard, and so that's certainly a function of it. The most important thing, though, is that we're able to connect this point of sale card capture system that you mentioned, into the core of the business. And so that transaction processing mechanism, you're no longer dealing in 2 disparate systems, you're dealing in one system. Yeah. And we make that back end, the card processing, supported by large global companies, seamless. We make it more connected.
Yeah. And so what's the next steps for Texada then?
So the next steps, certainly I think we're at the beginning of AI. We spoke about, how we use artificial intelligence now to help inform rental companies when there might be damage. There are other things that we can do in that way in terms of helping businesses analyze their own data and helping inform them about business trends. Certainly presenting and providing more access to information all the time is, I think, a real opportunity for us. We want to provide business owners the capabilities that they need to, see trends. If they're looking at a daily rental report, we want to show them is the trend of that day up or down from the day before? How about the week? How about the month or the year to date? We want to provide that kind of information. We call it in situ, in the line of how they're using the application. If they're reviewing service work orders on a piece of equipment, we want to tell them is that equipment, is the service requirements for that equipment going, trending up, trending down? How has that affected the productivity of that, the dollar productivity or time productivity of that equipment according to those service contracts? So really feeding this information back to the users of our software in usable ways, in really intuitive ways is a focus of ours, and that's something that we're working on. The last thing, which I think is really important in the world of modern software, is that we philosophically we have a great SaaS platform. We have a modern environment. We have modern APIs, web services for our applications. Philosophically, we believe in an open environment. And so we want to work with and integrate with as many partner companies or many other software companies or customer systems as we can to provide, the great system that our customers demand. We know that, we can't do it all on our own, nor do our customers want to do it all on our own. And providing a better service requires our working with others and really enabling our customers to benefit from the connections of other great software or their own systems. And I think that's a real important component of, as we think about, philosophically, as we think about our platform and the technology that we're building from. We don't want to build a closed wall environment that's, proprietary to just our stuff. Doesn't make sense. There's too much innovation happening in the world right now. And so we really want to enable customers, users, to get the most out of it, hopefully using as much of our stuff as they can, but also connecting it in other places where it makes sense for them. And so that's something that we're absolutely committed to. And I also think it kind of sets us apart in the industry right now.
Yeah, so maybe just, because not all of our listeners are going to be super technical, so just to provide context, I guess in older architecture, people would connect third-party applications directly to a database, and that isn't the best way or method to connect to things because it's not super secure and it can change things. So you mentioned the word API and web services. So what does that actually mean for someone that's not technical?
Yeah, that's a great question. And API is an application programming interface, and that's software speak for a standardized interface that's often based upon web technologies that allows somebody or something, another application, to get information from a system or into a system in a very scalable way. And so if there's another software application that a customer wants to connect to Texada, for example, the old way of doing it, as you mentioned, would be to write a very customized and configured piece of code that would somehow get the information from that other software into Texada or pull Texada's information and shove it into the other software. That's complicated, expensive, and not secure. In a modern web interface, you can do that. You can actually enable the integration of information and data in a very scalable way using secure web technologies that really a simple IT person can help set up. And it really becomes a non-event to get information into and out of a system. So like we said, we want to provide tools that our customers can use from Texada that help them manage the whole of their business. But we also understand that there's a lot of other systems out there that our customers have that they want to use, and really providing them the ability to connect into Texada, I think is part of our job one.
Very good. So I want to learn a little bit more about Matt Harris as well, so not just Texada. So in terms of the next generation of staff that are coming through, whether it be at Texada or at a rental business or at any business really, what advice would you give to that person that's starting out in their career?
I think it's interesting. I think great software companies, and especially great vertical software companies, are built on three things. And it's really the three things come together that really define the greatness. One is, clearly you have to understand the vertical industry. In our case, we really come from rental. We come from dealerships. We often know our customers' business at least as well as they do, sometimes better. And so really having that intimate understanding of the industry, of our customers' businesses, helps us obviously create better software, empathize with our customers better, and really serve their needs in the industry dynamics. That's one. The second thing is really doing that in the context of that domain, that industry knowledge, executing software in the context of the state of the art is the next thing that a great software company needs to be able to do. So otherwise said, it's not good enough just to understand the industry, build a piece of software, and then say you're done. That software is a living and breathing thing. And the great thing about our industry, about technology in general, it's changing all the time. There's new stuff to take advantage of, new web applications, new infrastructure, new artificial intelligence. And it's our job to think about, okay, in the context of our customer's business, what's the best way to take advantage of all this great new technology to build a better service, to build a more reliable service, to build a more secure service? And so that's the second thing that really needs to, we and our team needs to bring to the table. Then the third thing is really how to build a software company at scale. And it's just like a one-store rental company will do things that will help them have a really nice business. But sometimes, if they want to grow to 10 or 20 stores, they can't do things the same way as if they ran things with one store. So think about how to run a software company at scale, how to develop software effectively, how to continuously deploy that software, ensuring the high quality that you have, how to engage with customers in an effective way. Doing it through, obviously, personal engagements like we're able to do here at ARA is a lot of fun. But there's also a lot of different ways that our customers want us to engage with them, that are using different technologies, using mobile applications, using other things that we can do to engage with our customers, giving our customers more of the tools that they want in real time to help solve their problems or get them training. It's great that they can talk to some of our awesome service people, but sometimes they just want to use their mobile phone and look up and, hey, how do I do this, right? And that's more often than not, people are looking for ways to get it done that way. So as we grow, as a software company grows, it's imperative that it thinks about, how does it think about everything that it does in the framework of scale. And that's the third component of how you build a great software company, I think.
And so let's say that there's someone that's just finished school or they just finished college and they're entering the workforce for the first time and they're trying to plan their career. What would you say to them?
I would say, learn about the business in those three ways. Certainly understand the customers, their drivers, and how their company or they personally can make a difference for them. I think that's obviously an imperative, and that clear customer understanding. Think about then also, as technology businesses, what's a great application of technology to make a difference? We are innovators. Our job is to innovate. And so we don't want to be using yesterday's technology to solve today's problems. We want to use tomorrow's technology to solve today's problems. So thinking about, the state of the art in everything that we do, if we're supporting a customer, if we're selling to a customer, if we're obviously engineering software for customers, that's an imperative of ours as well. So think about, we're an innovation business, and so think about how to innovate in that given role. And then the third thing is think about if you're doing something for a customer, how do we not just do that one time well? How do we do it 1,000 times well? Right? What are things that we can be doing to make that, to replicate that, to help serve all of our customers in an equivalently, effective way? And so I think that's the really, the things that as somebody coming into technology now, can think about. And to be honest, I mean, there's a lot there. You can do a lot, and in any one of those pathways, it's sort of it presents rich opportunity. I think the neat thing about our organization is that we're looking to provide a dynamic career environment for people joining our company. And so, in fact, we want to create an internal job market, if you will. And so for people who want to try and learn new things, if they want to, be highly customer engaged and very customer intimate roles and services, but then they want to get into the engineering side of things, and then they want to get into maybe the, a support or even sales side of things, where we want to give people the opportunity to try different things in our business and really learn from that. And build a portfolio of experiences that they'll help them in their careers.
Yeah. And finally, so how do you define success?
That's a very good and existential question. And so I'll answer a different question, but it's kind of the same thing. It's, what gets me up in the morning is am I making a difference? And am I making a difference, and are we making a difference? Are we impacting our customers and helping them get better? Are we, as myself and a leadership team, are we making a better environment for people to build careers? For our employees who are working for us. I think that's what how I gauge myself against success is the impact and the difference I'm making on our customers, on our industry, on the basis of helping them provide better services, and then certainly on our employees. We have employees who have been with our business for several decades. We want new employees to also be with our business for now several decades as well, and creating an environment for them that gives them a dynamic place to learn, to try things, to succeed, to fail and learn. That's really, I think, a big imperative for me. How do I gauge myself?
Yeah, very good. Well, Matt, thank you for coming on the Rental Journal podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much. I enjoyed it.